I ran the numbers on renting versus buying over 30 years. The wrong choice won by $200,000. Today, we're settling that debate that has started more Thanksgiving arguments than politics. Should I rent, invest the difference and compound, or should I buy, build equity, and lock in my housing cost? And yes, there is a way to math this out without building a 47-tab spreadsheet that ruins your weekend. By the end of this video, you will know what works best for you using a simple 3-number test. Spoiler: comparing your rent check to a mortgage payment is already the wrong math. Alright, first, let's talk about why this question feels impossible in 2026. As of right now, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate is a little over 6%, which means the mortgage payment is mostly interest at the start, and affordability is still rough. Redfin's numbers put the income needed to buy the median home around $111,000, while the income to afford a typical rental is closer to $76,000. At the same time, rents have cooled off nationally. Rental vacancy ended 2025 at about 7.2%. So in a lot of cities, rent is doing what landlords never thought possible: staying put. Translation: the gap between the monthly cost of owning and renting is huge in many places. That's the landscape. Now here's where most people's math goes wrong. Myth: if my mortgage payment is close to my rent, buying is automatically better. No. Because home ownership costs not only mortgage payments but also property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Renting, however, only costs you rent. You must compare rent to the unrecoverable total costs of owning, not just the mortgage payment. At this point, someone is typing, "Homeowners are way richer than renters." That gap may be real, but it doesn't mean that buying makes you rich. People with more money, income, and stability are those who buy. Although home ownership can be a powerful forced savings system, you still have to run the math. There's a famous shortcut called the 5% rule. Rough estimate: the unrecoverable cost of owning is about 5% of the home's value per year. 1% property taxes, 1% maintenance, 3% cost of capital. Great rule, when rates were 3%. In 2026, rates are around 6%, and insurance costs have lost their minds. So the new break-even point is closer to 7% or 8% for most buyers. Here's the shortcut: home price times 0.07 divided by 12. That's your rough monthly burn rate for owning. Example: $400,000 home. 400,000 times 0.07 is $28,000 a year. Divide by 12, that's about $2,333 a month. If you can rent a comparable place for well under $2,333, renting is not throwing money away. It might be the smarter move. If rent is well above that number, buying starts to make financial sense. Is this perfect? No, but it is way more informative than comparing rent to your mortgage payment. Let's make this real. 2 people, same income, same discipline, same expensive coffee habit. Brian buys, Rachel rents and invests. 2026 setup: $400,000 home, 20% down, so $80,000. Mortgage at 6%. Rent on a comparable place, $2,500. Now, plot twist 1. The mortgage payment on Zillow is only principal and interest. On a $320,000 loan at 6%, that's about $2,000 a month. Sounds great. Then you add taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and your $2,000 mortgage quietly becomes $3,000. Plot twist 2. In year 1, roughly 80% of that mortgage payment is interest. You're basically paying rent to the bank with a tiny equity kicker on top. Brian pays interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and a sliver of principal. Rachel pays rent and keeps her $80,000 in a broad stock index. Now, what happens over 30 years? With historical returns, that $80,000 alone can grow to around $1.4 million, compounding at 10% per year. Before we even count the monthly savings. This is the core rent and invest argument. Not that rent is cheap, that the down payment and the monthly savings can compound harder than home equity. So renting always wins? No. Brian has two superpowers. Superpower 1, leverage. 20% down means you control a $400,000 asset with $80,000. If the home rises 3%, that's $12,000 of value on $80,000 of cash. A 15% return in year one, before costs. Leverage is rocket fuel. Gets you there faster. Can also blow up on the launch pad. Superpower 2, inflation protection. A fixed-rate mortgage locks your payment in today's dollars. If rents climb over the next decade, Brian's payment stays flat while the world gets more expensive. Brian's deal, forced savings powered by leverage with a payment that shrinks in real terms over time. Rachel's deal, full flexibility powered by compounding, but only if she actually invests the difference. Before you pick a team, meet the villains. They decide who wins. Transaction costs. Closing costs on the buy side, commissions on the sell side, moving, repairs. The break-even is measured in years, not months. If you might move in 2 or 3 years, buying is lighting money on fire with extra steps. Maintenance. Not a subscription, a random boss fight. 1 year, it's a $150 faucet. Next year, it's an $8,000 roof. Insurance. National average is around $2,500 a year. Florida is around $7,000. If your zip code doubles as a hurricane target, do not use the national average. Property taxes. Easy to forget because they're buried in escrow, but they can rise, and they vary wildly by state and county. And the biggest villain, being house poor. If buying turns you into someone who can't invest, can't save, and flinches every time the fridge makes a noise, no spreadsheet victory matters. You're not building wealth. You're building anxiety. Let's bring this home. Here's the weekly compounding 3-number test. 1. The rent for the place you'd actually live in. Not the haunted studio, the real one. 2. The home price for a comparable place. 3. How long you plan to stay. Step 1. Home price times 0.07 divided by 12. That's your monthly burn rate for owning. Adjust up for high tax or high insurance markets, down for cheap ones. Step 2. Compare that to rent. Rent meaningfully lower? Renting is financially competitive. Rent higher? Buying starts to win. Step 3. Check your time horizon. Can't outlast the transaction costs? Buying is playing on hard mode. That's the whole framework. Everything else is fine-tuning. One thing the spreadsheet can't model. You. Renting only wins if you invest the difference. If the extra cash turns into subscriptions, takeout, and furniture you saw on TikTok, you didn't rent and invest. You just rented. Buying forces savings through principal paydown. Not the highest return plan, but it's automatic. Be honest. Are you the person who invests the spread or the person who invests in Uber Eats? A house is a giant leveraged bet on one zip code. That can be incredible. It can also unravel if your local market tanks, your job market shifts, or your insurance triples. A diversified portfolio spreads risk across thousands of companies. Different risk profile, different upside. Worth knowing which game you're playing. Taxes. Everyone's favourite bedtime story. Owning can have tax perks, but they're not magic. Mortgage interest and property taxes help if you itemize. In 2026, the SALT cap is up to 40 grand for many filers, and mortgage insurance premiums are deductible again. Itemizing makes more sense for some homeowners now, especially in high-tax states. Bottom line, taxes can tilt the scale at the margins. They rarely flip the whole decision. Do not buy a house for a tax deduction. That's like buying a boat because it comes with a free cooler. Let's make this binary. Renting and investing tends to win when you're moving in under 5 years. Rent is much cheaper than the unrecoverable cost of owning. You'll actually invest the down payment and the monthly savings. Flexibility matters more than stability right now. Or your market has brutal insurance and property tax costs. Buying tends to win when you're staying 7 to 10 years or longer. Rent is close to or above the unrecoverable cost of owning. You want a locked-in payment and control over your space. You can afford the full monthly cost and still invest for retirement. And you don't mind being the CEO of a small, occasionally leaking building. Homework. Pick a home price in your area. Multiply by 0.07. Divide by 12. Compare it to rent. Drop your numbers in the comments. I want to see how this looks city to city. If this video saved you from a bad decision or confirmed a good one, hit like so the algorithm sends it to someone who needs it. Subscribe to Weekly Compounding for more videos that make your money work harder than you do. See you next week.